Thank you, Joy, for a very generous introduction. Joy is a person full of joy. She other day called me to know my hobbies, and I thought that's pretty cool. I don't remember anyone ever asked me um, for for my hobbies before any lecture. So this morning you are hearing quantitative neuromuscular monitoring talk from a pain guy. I don't know it is good or bad, but I can tell you I will be brief. I will talk very superficially about the topic, and I will leave hardcore stuff from Dr. Todd. He will talk about this at MSA meeting. So before we start, few housekeeping things. First of all, disclosure. I do not have any conflict of interest, and only thing is I might get a small amount of money from Springer as a book royalty, but that has nothing to do with the content of this talk. There will be some interactive session. So if you want to participate then please text RATANB 387 to 22333. Once you are in the session, then you don't need to type this word again. You just text the MCQ choices A, B, or C and D. And if you want to get CME credit, please type 1367 to the CME number. If you have any questions during this presentation, then type in the chat box. So first question is, what is strain of 4 ratio? So I will do a survey here. This is a warm-up question. And text RATNB 387 to 22333. We'll pause here for 30 seconds, see anyone respond. By the way, this is high yield for the questions for your exams. All right, so now let's look at what is strain of 4 stimulation. The original paper published in 1970 by Ali and associate. So in their paper, they showed they gave 4 supramaximal stimulation in 10th or 20th second. Each stimulation was 0.5 second, and they found that muscle contraction from this stimulation, first stimulation, fourth stimulation, almost same if there is no neuromuscular blockade on board. But if there is any neuromuscular blockade, then there is a fade in this response, and this fade corresponds to the degree of the blockade. That's why they use this a strain of 4 ratio. So now let's see what happens when you stimulate a nerve and the neuromuscular junction. When you stimulate a nerve, then presynaptic ending of the nerve have these calcium channels which pour calcium inside, and that squeezes this sac of acetylcholine into synaptic cleft. Once acetylcholine in the synaptic cleft, it binds to postsynaptic nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, and when it binds, then it influxes sodium ion from extracellular to intracellular space, and that causes depolarization. After this, acetylcholine quickly degraded by acetylcholinesterase. So you see that several factors affect this effective neuromuscular transmission. First of all, you must have a presynaptic calcium channel, which is not shown in this diagram, and in some patients there can be deficient of this ion channel, like Eaton-Lambert syndrome. And then acetylcholine released, it must have postsynaptic acetylcholine receptor, and they could be deficient in condition like myasthenia gravis, or they can be increased like after stroke or other conditions. And once acetylcholine released, then it's quickly degraded by pseudocholinesterase. And the pseudocholinesterase also can be deficient in patients. The acetylcholine will will stay in the synaptic cleft for a long time, and persistent stimulation by this acetylcholine can desensitize the receptor, which we call phase 2 blockade. Now let's look at the correlation between clinical signs symptoms and train of 4 ratio. Clinical assessment we do in the OR, for example, we ask the patient to um, lift their head or lift their hand or lift their head. It has been shown, and if the patient can lift their head for 3 seconds, we think that patient is recovered from the neuromuscular blockade. But in fact, it has been shown that more than 40% receptor can still be blocked. If patient has a good tidal volume, we are happy. We think patient recovered from neuromuscular blockade. But in fact, 50% receptor can still be blocked. When TOF ratio is around 0.8 to 0.9, then vital capacity and inspiratory force capacity become normal. So from this slide, I am trying to convince you that clinical assessment we do is not sufficient to assess that patient recovered from neuromuscular blockade. How can we measure the train of 4 ratio, which is not available in the OR? So can you measure the train of 4 ratio with an iPhone? Let's do another survey. And again, text RATNB 387 22333. I'm glad that some people know that train of 4 ratio can be measured with an iPhone. And me and my colleague developed an app called Train of 4 ratio, called Train of 4. And with this app, you can measure train of 4 ratio when you stimulate the muscle, stimulate the nerve with your conventional nerve stimulator. And I will tell you a story behind this app. It was back in 2012 when I was doing my residency at Montefiore Medical Center. And my family was at the time in New Jersey. So I was in New York, my family in New Jersey, and I used to see them every week or once in 2 weeks. At the time when I go home, my son, who was 8 years old, he used to play with my phone. So I asked him, Yannick, what are you doing? I said, one day I see he's shaking the phone. So, what are you doing? So I'm playing game. I know you are playing game, but why are you shaking the phone? So he said, Baba, if I shake once, then iPhone senses yes. If I shake twice, it senses no. I was very surprised how iPhone can sense the number of shaking. So I did some Google search and I found this page where it says that iPhone has an accelerometry chip, and the same chip iPhone use when it count our steps, when count the it's change the iPhone screen from vertical to horizontal direction. It also can tell us whether we are working hard in the OR or we are just sitting in the physician lounge, and by counting number of the steps. And so after that, I forgot about this incident. I was doing my residency training at Middle East, and it was pretty tough. So then I rotated to Jacobi Medical Center. And at Jacobi, I had a attending, his name is Prani Visas. So he's very good attending. He's always think about out of the box. And one day he told me that, Ratan, we are doing a case together. The patient is pretty sick. The patient has myasthenia. The patient is frail. And the case is pretty long. And also uncertain or complete paralysis. I don't know I will be able to extubate the patient, but let's do quantitative neuromuscular monitoring. And I have no idea what he's talking about. I never seen a device that can do quantitative monitoring of the train of 4. Then he took me to the storeroom and I found this device sitting there. Um, with looks like nobody used it for a long time. And then he showed me how to use this device. And I thought it's pretty cool. It is giving a train of 4 ratio from 0% to 100%. And when I push some rocuronium, it numbers goes to like close to 0. And they wait there half an hour, then it again climbs to 70s, 80s, 100. So the time I recalled my conversation I had with my son, but I thought that if this device can measure train of 4 ratio by counting the finger shaking, iPhone should be able to do that since it has the same accelerometry device. So at first I searched if there's anyone have this crazy thought that measuring train of 4 ratio with an iPhone. So I found this paper. It is actually letter to the editor, published Anesthesia, and Dr. Langford at United Kingdom. So he showed that if we used an eye seismography app, with eye seismography app, he showed that the strain of 4 ratio measurement is possible with an iPhone, and he mainly showed helicopter view of the train of 4 stimulation, but he did not really recruit any patient. It just emphasized the educational value of this app. So I first looked at if there's anyone who published any on eye seismograph, and I found a paper which is actually a PhD thesis of this gentleman, Kiichi Takeuchi. And in every paper you have corresponding author's email address, which is very important to contact with the author. So I emailed him, hey, can we talk? So initially he didn't respond, but I was persistent. Hey, I need your help to develop an app. I'm very excited to see your eye seismograph app, things like that. So after that, he asked me to see him in his Manhattan office. So I was living in Bronx and he's in Manhattan. And I went there. I requested him to make an app using the similar eye seismography technology, and so that can automatically calculate the train of 4 ratio. So just imagine that I was a resident. I don't have money to pay him for this app. I was begging him to make an app for free. But he agreed. He agreed to make the app, and we submitted to Apple. And Apple rejected the app, said it is not of public interest. So then I recorded my speech in a video, and I sent to Apple. This time Apple approved the app. After that, I submitted this app development story in an ASA meeting, and after that I forgot about the whole thing because I have other priorities in life, and this is not one of them. But when I joined this department, I showed this app to Mike Todd. I told him that Mike, I have an app which can measure train of 4 ratio. He was very skeptic initially. The measuring top ratio with iPhone, he didn't think it's a cool idea. But then he took me to the OR, and we tested this app on a few patients, and we convinced that this app output is almost similar to the commercially available train of 4 device. we decided to do